I seen you there, John. Hope you feel. Right. We have one public hearing here tonight and the regular plan commission meeting will follow after that. So during the public hearing, we will open the hearing. We'll hear from the applicant. We'll also hear from the town's planner, and then we'll open up the questions, answer the questions anyone may have, and then once everyone is done, we will close the public hearing and then open the regular plan commission meeting. All right, so we will open the first public hearing then at 6:32. Roll call, please.
Chairman Osterman.
Here.
Supervisor Plotecker. Here. Inspector Alhaffen.
Here.
Commissioner Nelson.
Here.
Commissioner Mouche.
Here.
Commissioner Everly.
Here.
Planner Sumwalt.
Here.
Attorney Macy is present and in the audience. Engineer Lysis is present and in the audience. Administrator Nicholas.
Here.
And Supervisor Linda Beal. Here. And Clerk Capazzo Catch to record the minutes.
Thank you. All right, notice was given that a joint public hearing will be held by the Town of Lisbon Board and the Plan Commission on Thursday, August 4th, 2022, starting at 6:30 PM at the Richard Young Fire Station, North 54 West 26455 Lisbon Road, to solicit public comments regarding proposed amendments to the Lisbon zoning code, in particular but not limited to section 2 parent B definitions related to minor grading permits. All right, since we are both the applicant and the everything, Orin.
Thank you, Chairman. The item before you this evening is a proposed amendment that the Plan Commission reviewed at their last meeting regarding a change to Chapter 11, Section 2B, the definition of a minor grading permit. And what this would accomplish is changing the threshold for when a major grading permit would be required by allowing more projects to be reviewed by the town engineer as a minor grading permit. From the discussion at the July meeting, some of the things that came up were the town planner was directed to contact the county and ask staff there how they felt about the proposed amendment. And there's a response from town planner, our Lisbon community planner, I guess, Sandy Shearer, regarding the matter. The other item was that the engineer was going to look into past projects and determine whether or not the proposed amendment would have impacted those coming before this body or not. I'll kind of defer now to let Mitch explain those findings.
All right. So I did look back past through this last year, 2022 and 2021. And we had reviewed 10 different major grading permits. And of those 10, we would have been reviewing all 10 of them based on our ordinance change that we're looking at doing at this time. So every one of them exceeded the 10,000 square foot or the 100 cubic yard threshold that we have established or looking at establishing.
So we accomplished nothing.
So we, with the past year and a half, yes, that's correct.
If I recall from looking over, it wasn't really close, except for maybe in one instance.
There was one of them that was fairly close, but all the rest of them were, yeah, very good sized projects.
Has there been any projects that, I mean, this is an unfair question to ask on the spot, but I mean, is there any projects you can think of that would have? There's not a big difference between what we had and what we're proposing.
No, not really. Wish I had better news.
Honest news is always the right news.
Yeah, I know.
Questions from on the board? Linda, anything? Commission, Jeff? No. Ed? No. Joe?
Is there any, Mitch, is there any sense that you got, you said you looked at maybe 10?
Yeah.
over the last, we've reviewed 10 of them since January of twenty
I
twenty-one.
mean, what was, other than one that was real close, what were the majority? I mean, was there any, when you were larger projects, I know I remember that.
Yeah. So I mean, well, obviously, we just looked at Blaze, that's over 60,000 cubic yards of material. Bryan Builders Corp, it's 150,000 square feet. I'm not gonna say this right, Palacky Trucking. Polyak, sorry, 181,000 plus square feet. Jeff Grove, Hamilton School District, that one was 12,800 square feet. So that was a little bit closer. Tom Goodex was 132,000 square foot of disturbance, so forth, so on.
You answered my question.
Yeah.
So we're not.
Nope.
Brian,
No, nothing.
Becky?
Nothing.
All right, to open it up to the public, anybody here for this public hearing wishes to speak? Anyone on Zoom? Raise your hand on Zoom.
No hands raised on Zoom.
All right, then last call from anyone here. Last call for questions from the commission, anything? All right, then we'll close this public hearing then at 6:38. Might be the shortest public hearing we've had in a long time. We'll move into the regular plan commission meeting. We've already called to order. Item 2 is citizens' comments. Does anyone have any citizens' comments tonight for anything on the agenda? All right, anyone on Zoom have any citizens' comments?
Anyone on Zoom use the raise hand function? No hands raised on Zoom.
Thank you. All right, Item 3 is approval of the minutes. We have the May 5th, 2022 public hearing plan commission minutes, the June 2nd and the July 7th public hearing and plan commission meeting minutes.
Mr. Chairman, the June minutes did not get printed. They are complete, but they did not get printed.
So we'll be just having the July and the May. Any comments or questions? Or is there a motion on the minutes? You can take them individually or take them together.
I'll make a motion. We approve the plan commission minutes from May 5th, 2022 and July 7th, 2022.
Is there a second?
I will second that.
Nelson, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Item 4, new business. A, discussion and necessary action on the request by Tony Zanon, Pinnacle Engineering for Mike Carrick Homes for approval of a final plat for Pheasant View Meadows subdivision for the property located at North 48 West 2763 Lindale Road, tax key LSBT 0268.999 in the R2 zoning district. Nice to hear from the applicant here.
No.
All right. Warren?
So, yeah, before you, our request for final plat approval, the preliminary plat, including all 31 proposed lots, was conditionally approved by the Plan Commission back in December of 2021. And that was, there was a big gap between the conceptual review and that preliminary plat. I believe it was much earlier in 2021 when the concept plan came forward, but the final plat contains 31 lots, 4 outlots. It's about 89 acres. There were some waivers to island size and walking trails that were approved along with the preliminary plat. Final plat has a density of 2.9 acres per unit, which is consistent with the maximum density allowed. The stormwater plan for the entire subdivision has previously been approved. The development agreement was prepared by the town attorney and reviewed and approved back in January. And this subdivision is subject to extraterritorial approval. The conditions are pretty straightforward with what the Plan Commission has seen from previous final plats. Are there any questions from the plan commission? Go.
I just got three things. On the first page of your comment, you mentioned that it's the ETZ for the city of Milwaukee, and does Heartland also have ETZ on this? Because the plaque doesn't have a signature on it. I turned it off. Does the village of Heartland have ETZ on this?
That's my understanding. The county's comments on the preliminary plat were that Pewaukee had waived by resolution their ETZ approval authority. And so by default, then it appears it would be. There's one of our conditions essentially adds that in, that the applicant needs to obtain the ETZ approval prior to the recording of the.
Yeah, the only thing
plat.
I noticed was on the final plat itself, there's a reference to the village, the city of Pewaukee, but there's not one for Heartland, so that's why my question came.
Yeah, when we brought this issue up at our staff meeting, we resolved that it would be up to the applicant to determine who the appropriate authority would be and
Okay.
gain that approval, and by conditioning our approval on them obtaining that, I mean,
Okay,
they have to do it regardless.
that's fine, they'll take care of that.
Yeah.
Second comment I have, did we have any engineers' comments on this?
Mark, we had marked up, we had done a technical review of it. There really wasn't many items to review. That technical review, I didn't see it in the packet. It was just a PDF that we had marked up with a couple comments on it. So I saw the original plat, but I didn't see the one with our comments, but they're very minimal, and I'll
Okay.
make sure that they get taken care of.
Mitch, did you guys do this
No, that was prepared by
them?
them.
Because there's nothing up here about who did that, so I was questioning whether this was yours or was.
No, they submitted
That's
that with
theirs.
they
Okay.
submitted that with their.
Okay, then the last thing I have, which is on page 2 of your comments, Orin, down in item 2B3, the second line, I believe the word consistent should be inconsistent. Because it says the one that we submitted to the town is not consistent.
Typo, I'll correct
I,
that.
you just do that to see if I read these. that's all.
Yep,
That's all I had, Mr. Chairman.
found it.
Anyone else have any questions?
Just very quickly, just to verify or not verify, there are 4 outlots in the subdivision as proposed. And to my knowledge, there are not going to be any tot lots or they're not going to be set aside for tot lots, et cetera.
There is going to be a playground. It will be private.
Okay. Is that towards, Orin, is that towards the west of the subdivision? Because I know the front of the subdivision is quite steep going down to.
So I brought it up on the screen here. It's off of Silver Pheasant Pass.
mm,
Must be
Okay.
this one.
Where the cul-de-sac starts,
Okay.
100 foot by 100 foot top line.
Oh, there it is, right here.
I was gonna unfold my map, but and
Yeah,
I
keep
had
in-
it marked. I
Keep in mind that
apologize.
on the plan, Lindale is actually on the left side of the page.
Yes,
Based on the way they could make this fit.
yes. Okay. I just wanted to refresh my memory on that.
So because of that, we do still have a condition regarding proportionate payment in lieu of parkland dedication. Condition number 6.
So that's, yeah, you're right. I had it marked. It's outlot number 4, I believe. Okay. But as you just stated, that will be private.
Correct.
Okay. Oh, thank you.
Anyone else? Jeff, any?
No.
Brian? Becky?
No,
As far as the extraterritorial jurisdiction. So if there is split jurisdictions, if one community waives it, is it a requirement that another community have jurisdiction at that point? I guess it's a question for John. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We discussed this as the planner indicated at the staff meeting, and we actually went through the statute. Joe and some of the others would be very familiar with it, where it says the two communities both have jurisdiction. You measure which one's closer,
Right.
do the math and determine it. But this got confusing. That would be the simple answer. But this got confusing because Pewaukee has waived.
Right.
And it also got confusing because I think the county, and Arnold, correct me if I'm wrong, said that they had to get both of them, which I believe is absolutely false.
Right.
You never have to get both of them under the state statute, but if I remember the county staff. So we punted, as Arn has politely said, and we said it's up to the developer to determine if they need to get any. Our opinion was, without doing a lot of research, that if Pewaukee is the closer one and they've waived it, he doesn't have to get anybody.
That's,
That would be
right.
why we went through the process of having the cooperative boundary plan and the border agreements with these communities to avoid that issue for our residents and our developers. So we thought, he's got to get it through the county, he's got to get it through the state. We weren't going to spend a lot of his money researching an issue that he's going to have to resolve. So I don't have a good answer. Our gut reaction was, you may not have to get anybody because Pewaukee's waived and we think Pewaukee's closer. But we didn't do the math. It's also complicated because there's, as Kathy and Elisa pointed out, cities have the 3 miles and villages have the 1.5 miles, or correct me if I'm wrong. And so that plays into it. So it wasn't an easy situation. As I said, if you'd like us to research it, we can, but we punted and said, Mr. Developer, as Lauren had said, you got to get any approval that's required under the law for extraterritorial planning.
I just didn't want, like, if nobody, like, let's say they don't do anything and they come forward and we approve it. And all of a sudden Heartland comes back later and says, what are you doing? I just don't want us to be at fault in any way.
I have every reason to believe the county and the state are going to be different, but at least the county.
Okay, so we're covered. That's perfect.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
All right. Any other comments or questions from anyone? Anything else from staff? Is there a motion on this item?
I'll make a motion to approve the final plat as presented with the comments provided by the planner.
Is there a second?
I will second that.
Second by Nelson. Any final discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Thank you. Item B, discussion necessary action on the request by applicant Nick Coleman for approval of site plan of operation for the property located at North 71 West 22339 Good Hope Road, LSBT 0237.980 for a custom car shop in the county M2 zoning district. The applicant is here. Right. Warren, we'll start out with you. Sure, we'll start with our planner. He'll give an overview and you'll be able to come up, state your name and address, and then for whoever you have as your representative.
So I've brought up the property here on the GIS. First thing I want to point out is just that this property is entirely within county shoreline zoning, which is important. So we're doing a site plan of operation review. Essentially, we're making a recommendation to the county who has final approval authority, it being in their jurisdiction. So the petitioner is requesting approval for an approximately 6,000 square foot new automotive performance shop for Coleman Customs, Inc. behind Christine M. Cole's existing single-family residence at North 71 West 22339 Good Hope Road. The building will be located on the south end of the property. And I'll bring up a site plan here. So here you can see the proposed building in relation to the home, Good Hope Road on the north side of this. The existing single-family residence within the M2 district would be considered legal nonconforming. And what that means to us is that by there being a permitted industrial use now, or commercial use, if you will, something that's allowed in the M2 district, the home is going to change from legal nonconforming to being accessory to the permitted principal use of the automotive performance shop, should that get approved. And so that's actually a good thing for everybody across the board if this project gets approved. So we have a condition that we've added based on that scenario that essentially says that we're conditioning this on the accessory use of the residence, that it be occupied by someone affiliated with the business. So the existing single-family home and attached garage are limited to residential purposes only in conjunction with the business. Occupancy of the residence must include someone affiliated with the business. So that just ties the two together in keeping with the scenario in the zoning.
So I'm just gonna ask this question right away. How is this different than what was allowed over for the rental units and such? I can't think of the landscaper that's across from Whiskey Corners.
Crown Crafters?
Yes, so there is a house there that is renting. There's 3 units in there that we allow to rent. So I guess my question would be, why would we put any different restriction on this property?
I guess I didn't review that project, so I'm not as familiar with it. It was in a different zoning district. So I don't know if the rule would have been applied differently.
My question would be, was it considered a accessory to the Ground Crafters barn? I don't remember that discussion that this
A while ago.
multifamily was, because it's not a single family, the single family house is a accessory to structure to the commercial building.
I don't remember what we did over there. I just know it exists. And we had not given them any restrictions.
Mr. Chairman, if I remember correctly, I believe that was an ag zoning and residential uses outright permitted in ag zoning, the contract. I don't remember what it was classified as, but I believe the
What-
business was allowed because it was agricultural related.
Would they actually rent it? It's basically a triplex. That would just be the question I just don't want to put a restriction on these people that we don't put anywhere else. Like if they wanted to rent the home to somebody.
Our thoughts during discussion was that if we put that in, that it was somewhat substantially related, we wouldn't be hearing a complaint that the shop is too noisy for whoever moved in. And so that was just something we were thinking about, and since it fits into their current situation, we didn't think there was going to be a problem by the petition.
Does the applicant even care? I'd have to come up with a mic to answer the question, but
No, I didn't.
state your name and address.
I'm Nick Coleman.
It's on the top.
Got it. There you go. Hi, I'm Nick Coleman.
Address.
Address?
Yep.
North 71 West 22339 Good Hope Road.
Thank you.
No, I have no problem with that at all.
Okay.
We reside there and I don't plan on moving anywhere anytime soon.
Okay.
So.
Thanks. All right.
So just the way that we arrived at that was that the way that residential is specifically allowed in the M2, you have to work your way back through a bunch of different districts in the code because of the pyramiding zoning ordinance, but it states that limited to residential purposes in conjunction with the business. So that's the basis for where that condition is coming from. So the applicant has submitted, in addition to the site plan, a lighting plan, They're showing the existing landscaping on the property. They've provided exterior elevations so that you can see the materials that are being proposed, which were selected to be complementary to the materials of the existing residents. And the applicant has proposed 4 parallel or stacked, if you will, parking stalls along the east side of the property. There is a dumpster enclosure being proposed in the southeast corner of the lot. Under the site plan and plan of operation items, under 1C, we've got the hours of operation listed Monday through Sunday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. The applicant reached out to the town clerk to alert her to a discrepancy. Their original application had different proposed hours. And I believe they would like the plan commission to consider something different, which they'll elaborate further when they come up to give their brief presentation. So overall, it's a very professional plan submittal. I believe the county is on board with what is being requested. The applicant has been in communication with the county from the beginning of their project. And the county actually directed them to us for this site plan of operation approval.
Any questions right now for Warren?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. You said that the county has jurisdiction. We are not in county zoning. I understand there's an overlay. There's an overlay, because of the shoreline jurisdiction. But they still have to abide by our zoning code, do they not?
No,
So our zoning code, then why are we here?
because the county allows the town to do this site plan and plan of operation review and approval so that they can gain the input from the community. So it's a courtesy by the county, and it's good to know what's going on in your own jurisdiction.
Well, yes, it is. Fact of the matter is, our comprehensive plan calls for this to be residential.
But
So it's contrary to our comprehensive plan, which takes precedence over our zoning. Our zoning has to meet with our comprehensive plan.
no, it does not take precedence. If somebody is proposing a rezoning, that needs to be consistent with the comp plan. In
That's
this
right.
case, the applicant is exercising their right to utilize the existing zoning.
Okay, I understand that. But our zoning code does not take any, is not considered whatsoever. Our M2 zoning.
We don't have zoning here. It's county shoreline M2. There is no town zoning. As long as the
Okay.
county's shoreline overlay exists.
Okay,
It's their jurisdiction.
does the M2 mirror ours, or does ours mirror the county's code
Ours mirrors the county's code.
verbatim?
I believe so. Pretty much. Yeah.
What about setbacks in the zone? I've used our code when I was looking at this. And offsets. This building is proposed only, what, 10 feet from the property line?
For the site plans, correct. To the west, that would be the case, yes. It's actually a little more on the south end of the building than on the north end of the building.
The problem I have with this is that the property immediately to the west is in a residential zoning.
It's a split zone lot, so it's partially also
That's correct.
county shoreline M2,
Part of it,
and it's partially town residential, correct?
right. And our code, the M2 code, addresses that. For M2, that abuts a residential zoning district requires a 200-foot setback or a 200-foot offset from that property, from that zoning.
But the portion of the property adjacent that abuts this lot is zoned M2.
Yeah,
And so this property abuts to the east an M2 county shoreline zoned portion of that property. This building does meet that setback requirement, which I checked to the north, where there is across the street residential zoning. Immediately adjacent, so to the north.
so this whole area is still zoned M2 by the county.
Correct.
All right,
So that's the way things exist on the ground today.
yeah, okay. I think it's a mistake.
You think the county shoreline zoning is a mistake or?
No, I think that, well, I think that, yeah, that's a historic zoning when, that goes back a lot of years. And, there are a lot of residential properties in that area. And in fact, you know, having gone through the comprehensive zoning, the comprehensive planning process, you know, it's was the town's recommendation that that be designated residential.
If they were going to rezone, but they have the ability to continue with the zoning they have right now.
Yeah, just
Because
like
they're
the
not
property
rezoned.
to their, the other side there, I think there's, at least there used to be a landscape operation in there that I didn't think it should have been in there either, but okay. Since they don't have to live by zoning code, because they just because there's a property line and it goes into another property and it's still zone M2, they don't have to worry about the setback or the offset.
They do, but what I'm telling you is for that split zone lot.
Yeah.
I can't undo the fact that a portion of that lot that's adjacent to theirs has the same zoning. That's,
Right,
But if it's 200 and some, what is it, 200?
200 feet
So the lot
offset.
next to them, you're talking about the lot to the west.
Yes,
So the lot to the west is 147 feet, and if there's only 10 feet off the lot line, it still doesn't even meet it for the lot that's even adjacent to that one. I believe it is. Yeah, 2 lots over.
I think the way that it reads though is the adjacent property.
I just want to be clear. I mean, well,
I don't-
but that's
I don't-
our zoning code, so I actually, this has come up because of the Corey zoning. So if you gotta be 1,000 feet from a residential lot line and they own every lot up into it, my lot is still, they still need to be 1,000 feet from, I'm just using random numbers here. Okay, they still need to be 1,000 foot from mine. Even if 4 property owners sign off on it, they still need to be 1,000 foot from my lot. I just want to make sure we're doing this right. I want to be clear. I like a car. I'm all about cars. I'm all about these kind of facilities, but I just want to make sure we're not creating a problem here. Because when the complaints come, who has to handle them? The county can say yes all they want, but we're the ones that are going to be in the middle of it. Neighbor disputes seem to be something that is just running rampant these days. That's this one.
yeah.
It's hard to tell on our map, but it does look like a portion even of that adjacent parcel is even within that. Is within there, you know, I'm going off of this. This isn't exactly perfect. But. So. And the other end of this is, they seem to be redelineating these waterways pretty frequently. What happens if they redelineate this? What happens with all of it then too? But again, I'm not against this use. I'm not. Yeah. Sure.
So I switched the layer to show the county shoreline, which before I had turned off. I just had the town zoning on, so apologies, but now on
Yeah,
the screen
there
for
it is.
the folks that aren't here, it shows
That's a good map. That's a good slide there.
it's clear what the,
So that is beyond the 200-foot barrier then. I believe, no.
Well, the-
No, it's not. I'm sorry, I went over.
It's just one over.
Yeah.
the way that I believe it's F2, so I'm in section 32, which is the M2 General Industrial District. Letter F, number 2 is the offsets. Letter B states that buildings or uses not permitted in the more restrictive zoning district shall provide a 100-foot minimum offset from a restricted or local business zoning district and a 200-foot minimum offset from a residential or agricultural zoning district and shall be screened from the more restrictive zoning district by a planting screen at least 6 feet high and 15 feet in width.
So this isn't gonna be 200 feet away.
The 10-foot, the offset says 10-foot minimum, except that where a lot abuts on a zoning district boundary line of a more restrictive zoning district permitting residential use. So in my interpretation, the lot does not abut a zoning district boundary line of a more restrictive zoning district permitting a residential use because the portion of the adjacent lot is zoned. The boundary line, if you will, has common zoning.
But it still has to be 200 feet away from a residential.
Well, but the start of that, the start of that setback, so
Because it just said it has to be a minimum, so before that, you just read it has to be 200 feet away, correct?
that's the sub B. I think that's where our commissioner was looking at. That's the section referenced, but the beginning of that offset says except, so it's 10 feet minimum, except that where a lot abuts on a zoning district boundary line of a more restrictive zoning district permitting residential use. Section
I have a
32.
question for it.
So my interpretation was that it does not abut a lot on a zoning district boundary line of a more restrictive zoning district, except for to the north, which they're meeting the setback from.
So it has to, it centers around the fact that that lot to the west has split zoning. So therefore, because it has split zoning, it doesn't have residential zoning.
Not on the boundary line. On the boundary line, it shares the same M2 as this lot. As you can see on the
So-
map I have up on the screen.
Okay. Cause I'm looking at where the shoreline zoning is, and it splits the lot to the west for all intents and purposes, right down the middle. So because it
Pretty
has
close, yeah.
1 square foot of M2 zoning on there, it doesn't, you don't deal with it.
I'm looking at the western boundary between this lot and the lot to the west. And the zoning at that point is the same, M2.
So what I'm getting at is, and what's confusing my head is even though part of that lot to the west has residential zoning, it doesn't matter because at the common lot line, the zoning is M2.
It says a zoning district boundary line. So
But what
where
if-
a lot abuts on a zoning district boundary line of a more restrictive zoning district. And this
Okay.
lot does not abut a more restrictive zoning district. Because at the property line, they're shared. It's
Okay,
the same
I-
M2 zoning on each lot.
Okay, I understand what you're saying.
I understand that it's very confusing. I appreciate it. I looked at it more than once, believe me. But also, again, we're making a recommendation essentially to the county. But I believe that interpretation is correct.
But I'm guessing that they just do. Shoreline, those were.
The applicant has a presentation. Does anyone else have any questions before they give their?
No, not now.
Okay.
I
You had
will
a-
this time.
Go ahead.
Just the last thing that I wanted to point out is that the project doesn't, to the letter of the town's law zoning wise, meet our parking standards. But the county has more reasonable parking standards that we will strive to be moving towards when we
Less restrictive.
less restrictive. Yes, let's put it that way. So I'm actually fine with the parking as proposed. And they will, I believe, meet the county's standard.
The applicant, you had a presentation for tonight? Gotta have you come on up. though.
Does the architect typically walk through the design?
Yes.
Okay,
You can, I mean, it's up to the commission, I guess. You wanna
I
walk
guess,
through it?
or is there any questions from what you've seen so far?
No, basically, it's very thorough.
Sir, can you state your name and address for the
I'm
record,
sorry,
please?
it's Patrick Smith. And my address is 5916 North Shoreland Avenue, Whitefish Bay.
I mean, does anyone have any questions for him?
Could you just speak to the as far as the building and the exterior lighting that's being proposed?
Sure.
It appears that the proposed building would be taller than the light, and you're proposing a full cutoff light.
Right.
So essentially, the light should be blocked by the building.
It is, yes. So it's a 20-foot pole, cutoff light, and we only needed one pole to get to the lighting requirements for the town. And then there'll be typical egress lighting on the building, but there's not too many foot candles that'll come off of that.
Jeff, anything?
No.
Ed?
So with the lighting, obviously there's a residence right close by. There's going to be no spillover effect.
No, and that's what we're just getting at. So the eastern facade of the building is going to block the light, and then it's already a cutoff light to begin with.
Okay,
So
all right.
it actually worked out quite nice. And then we were able to not put two poles in. We were able to just get away with just the one in the middle.
Okay. Joe?
I've got questions on the plan of operation, not on the building.
Brian? Becky?
Thank you.
Okay. Plan of up. I guess I have no other questions on that at this point. I do not know that I agree with, respectfully. I'm reading this and it does not say to be abutting anywhere. That word is not even in there. Buildings or uses not permitted in the more restrictive zoning district shall provide a 100-foot minimum offset from a restricted or local business zoning district and a 200-foot minimum offset from a residential or agricultural zoning district, and shall be screened from more restrictive zoning district by a planned screen at least 6 feet high, 15 feet in width, period. I mean, the word abutting is not even in here. Yeah, but it doesn't say that in 2B here.
What it says in 2 is that the 10-foot is the minimum except where that scenario presents itself, where there's a lot that abuts on a zoning district boundary line of a more restrictive zoning district permitting residential.
I would not want to be the attorney that would be battling this if this would go further.
We happen to have one here.
Yeah.
So the way that I read this is it's a 10-foot minimum setback. unless that scenario presents itself where the common lot line has adjacent to it a district that allows residential
But what
as
happens?
a
when,
permitted use.
of all the times
So
the
if-
county is gonna be dealing with this is gonna be one of them.
If that scenario presents itself, then you see A and B and you follow those rules. And my interpretation is based on reading 2. We don't have that situation, so we don't read A or B. We just go with the 10-foot minimum setback.
I don't agree, but it's okay. All right, so we have no other questions on that one?
On that aspect of it, I've got questions on the.
Plan of operation, yeah.
And Mr. Chairman, outside of very thorough discussion we just had, there's been no other correspondence. I mean, there are residences next to where this is going to be. So there's been no other correspondence. No neighbor has stepped forward and said, we don't want this. Is that correct?
I have no. So here's the issue. We had this thing called citizens' comments at the beginning of the meeting.
Yeah.
This is where anyone who has comments or anything on the agenda are supposed to speak.
We didn't know, we were the first meeting, you weren't notified or anything.
Does anyone, I guess I would like to hear from them though. I know we're past citizens' comments. Does anybody want to suspend the rule to allow some comments?
I would so move.
There's a second?
I'll second that.
Motion made in second and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Right. We're gonna take a short citizens' comments on this item only. If you step up, please keep your comments brief. If you hear one person has, just don't keep repeating them, I guess is the big thing, but step up, state your name and address, please. I can appreciate you.
It's on.
No.
Okay. I love Chris
And
and Nick.
address us, address us.
I love our neighbors dearly.
Name and address.
Nicole
Last name.
Berg,
Okay.
Berg, North 71 West 22371. We are the property right next door.
Okay.
Um,
To the
and
west.
right,
the
the
west.
split one. And our bedroom is closest to their lot. And I work third shift. So that to me is very bothersome. When I looked at the map online, it's showing that it's a Q1, not a M2. So there's a difference there from what is showing on the map online. But the noise is a problem to me. I never said it to Chris or Nick because I love them dearly, but it is very noisy. I'm nervous.
Just
Sorry.
speak, just look at one of us and speak right to us.
I'm just nervous. It's
Just-
it's, the only reason this came about is because there were so many complaints that he was cited with having illegal business there. And then they found out that it was, which I thought was a Q1, turned out to be an M2 because there were so many complaints.
Okay, ma'am, right now, it's just between her and I. You'll have your chance to speak, but as of right now, this is the conversation.
So that's where I sleep till noon, 1 o'clock, and if he's running his business, that's my bedroom right there. So that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi there, my name's Matt Ladke, Laedtke. I live at N71 W22395 Good Hope Road. And I'm the property to the west of her. I guess I'm not opposed to this building being built. I have issue like she does with noise. I love Nick and Chris too. I've known Nick since he was this big. We've lived there for 22 years. And yes, there have been complaints. Noise has been a problem multiple times. And I'll just keep it short here, but I'll just show you guys This is on a Sunday night. 8:30 at night on a Sunday. I'm 100 yards away. And this is what I hear multiple times. In the summer, probably hundreds of times. I'm standing inside my house right there, 100 yards. I just measured it out. It's 100 yards. That's what we listen to. I guess that's my biggest concern. So when Commissioner Eberly, sorry. When you ask about the use, I want to know what's going on. I want to know what kind of noise is going to be made from this building, and lighting, I guess it sounds like it's not an issue, but there is a building behind us that was approved, BPX Bill Brock, which is directly behind us, and that's zoned M2 as well. Their lights shine right in our bedroom window. I don't know if that was ever addressed with that building, but it's an issue. Also, the question about the zoning, being abutted to an M2. And so if you look at the overlay, what's the zoning, the Q1, is that the quarry?
So this, I'm not supposed to have a lot of back and forth here.
Okay,
because
sure.
But I'm,
So my
I'm
thing,
just gonna answer your
Yep,
question quick.
yep.
So there's town zoning and there's county zoning.
correct,
And you guys looked at the town zoning
Yep.
map. And there's a county zoning map that takes precedence over ours.
okay,
So yeah, well, we have a Q1, they have an M2, and they're the bigger
Sure.
fish.
sure. Well, so when I look at that property, her property next door where it splits right through the middle, if you look at the overlay, like you were saying, like Q1 and the M2, it's zoned both of those basically because they overlay each other. So wouldn't her property, if it's an M2 split right down the middle with residential, wouldn't that be zoned both? Where that 100-foot rule, or I think it's very gray. And being residents that live right next to that, I think it needs to be addressed further. So that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, what time was that?
That was 8:23 on a Sunday evening. Thank you.
All right. Does anyone else have any other comments? Because once I close this, that's it. We're not gonna reopen it. So you're the applicant. You can address these things during your, now, under comments, but you're gonna talk to us. You're not gonna talk to them. You're gonna talk to us. Or you can wait and do it under your, as soon as we close the comments. Okay? No, we got it.
I've been doing this for probably 4 or 5 years now. And not once has anyone ever said any kind of noise complaint to me. I know they cut down all their trees when they moved in, and it's a direct sight right to Matt's porch from my backyard. So I can totally understand how he can stand on his porch and take a video of very loud noise. That I totally get that. And I don't want to piss anyone off. This is the last thing I want to do. I guess, I do this recreationally too. So even if I were to move with it somewhere else, it wouldn't matter because I would bring my personal vehicle home, which that probably was my personal vehicle on it 8:30 on a Sunday night. I travel the country. I go racing all over the place. There's times I spend 2 a.m. in the shop working on my own stuff to make a race. So like, this is my life. I eat, breathe, sleep, everything. So now if I spend all my time away from my house, I don't get to see my daughter. I don't get to see my stepson when he shows up. I won't get to see my mother. So like, it being on my lot really helps in multitudes of my life, not just my business. I don't want to piss anybody off at all. I want to keep everybody happy. The big thing with the noise is, I have to keep my doors open. It's a 3-car garage. You do any kind of grinding, you do any kind of cutting with a plasma cutter, this rubber, it starts to build up in that building. And I only got these 2 little fans that execute that.
I would tell you to be a little cautious on everything. This is a recorded meeting.
Yeah.
And if you are doing things in there that would not normally be allowed in this type of use, you're gonna be basically incriminating yourself on it, just so you know. So I would just choose your words carefully.
I'd like to keep the noise inside a building where it's not aggravating my neighbors, aggravating anybody close to me. And And I'd like to not run cars outside and aggravate people. That's basically it. So I have a separate room that we would run cars in with exhaust fans, and we were gonna insulate it and make it more sound deadened. Try to attack that problem head on, because I know it is a concern with these guys, and I don't want that to happen. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else have any other comments at this point? All right, at that point, then we're going to suspend citizens' comments. Continue on. All right. So we received our comments on that. Questions from the commission after that, Jeff?
No.
Ed?
Question was that, because I was, in light of the information we received, I was concerned about, well, what about insulation? What about ventilation of the proposed new building? And the gentleman just answered that question. So
Joe?
nothing further.
Yeah, I have a few questions or comments. Number one, are you planning on doing painting inside this new building?
No, my main focus is chassis building, fabrication, engine building. You know, some people don't have a place to go to assemble an engine anymore. We're losing our shop in Butler, CNS Performance. So I'm hoping to get some tools to be able to take care of people with that too.
Okay, as far as fabrication, because based upon personal experience, I've experienced people working on things, mechanical operations inside of buildings with doors open. And whether it's January or July, I'm concerned about the noise, and the noise travels quite a ways. So if you're in there, as an example, banging and cutting and welding and everything else, I'm concerned about, and that's why I asked about painting. You have two large louvers on the south end of the building. And it looks like those two louvers are contained within the building, within a portion of the bigger building. That's why I was asking, are you gonna be painting?
That's where we would run the car to tune on it and test it and make
Okay.
sure that we're getting things
Yeah,
sorted
well-
out before we let it leave.
I'm concerned about operating in that building 7 days a week, long hours, with those doors open and those louvers opening. And what that impact that's gonna be to the neighbors. Because I know from personal experience that noise travels quite a ways. And I'm just wondering how you're gonna be handling that. I mean, you were just mentioning that in your existing garage, what you were doing up there, and that's causing a problem. Which leads me to the next question. Are you gonna continue to be doing this type of work that you're referring to in your existing garage in addition to this new building?
No, the existing garage would become storage and where I would keep my nice cars. And my mom's nice car and my girlfriend's nice cars. The new shop would be strictly the business. The old garage would be for me to work on my stuff.
Noise is a concern of mine. Fumes is a concern of mine. And I have got one other question, a clarification. You've got number of employees in your application. It differs. One says there's gonna be a total of 2, which I assume you and one other person.
Yeah,
Another one, it says 3. So I'm just, how many people are you planning on having?
it should be 2, but as for expansion in the future, I do have one other person that I would like to come on because of this extra space.
Okay.
Yeah.
That gets to the point of this parking. Because if you only got 3 parking stalls and you got 3 people, that means you've got no place to park a car for a customer or anything else. I mean, are you planning on having entirely all your operations, including storage of vehicles within that building? Or are you gonna be parking them outside?
No, everything would be stored inside the building. That would be a part of the point of building this building is I don't want customers we get a $50,000 to $100,000 car. I don't want it sitting outside.
Yeah, but
I'd rather everything be inside and
See what I'm
covered.
getting at? If you have two or three, say you have three employees. And a customer comes to your operation, there's no place for them to park. So therefore, 3 parking spots isn't enough.
3 employees, including me. That would be including me. So it'd be me and 2 other guys.
But you only have 3 to begin with.
I
Where's the
would park
customer
my
going?
truck in my residential portion of the lot.
Okay.
So I
Well-
would still maintain 1 customer parking spot, but one of my guys rides a scooter to work almost every day, rain, shine.
So there's not gonna be any outside storage of any cars.
No. No, sir. That's the whole point I'm trying to avoid is having stuff outside. We got trees that are about to come down on some of the cars that are on the lot. And I'd prefer those not getting destroyed.
I mean, the stuff he's gonna be working on, nobody's gonna allow it outside. I'll back
Yeah,
that up.
That's.
If you're working on a
true.
race car, that's not sitting outside. If you're working on a.
I'm trying to
$5
eliminate
car,
as
it's-
much noise and everything as possible with this building. I want to be more professional with this. I want to be as professional as I possibly can be. Well, when somebody comes into the shop, I don't want them thinking, oh, it's just a 3-car garage. I want them to walk in and be like, wow, these are very nice cars being built. This is where I would like mine to be built.
Well, I appreciate that and I take your word for it, but I just have I have a huge concern with noise.
Absolutely.
And when it's nice in the summer, when people have the windows open, somebody striking something with a large hammer travels quite a ways and grinding for welding and everything else. So those are my concerns. I don't have any other questions, Mr. Chairman. Brian?
Well, the only thing I was gonna say is, so it's gonna be more or less a mechanic's garage.
Pretty much.
So you're gonna have to have some type of air exchange,
Yes.
which will be either continually running or operated with a light switch, or
Yes.
there's a bunch of different ways to do it. But there's still no guarantee that you're gonna keep the doors closed in the summertime unless you're gonna air condition the place.
And that's why we ended up placing the doors, I think it's the east side of the building,
Okay,
away from all our concerned neighbors, trying to avoid any more noise. That's the last thing I want to do.
okay.
It's air, it will also have central air. So I prefer the doors closed.
So theoretically, you could keep the doors closed all the time.
Yes.
And you could insulate it. I don't know what impact that would have on the noise you're making, because one gentleman brought up his recording at 100 yards away. That's pretty loud. Although I understand, he can adjust the volume on his phone, but to even hear it at 100 yards, that a phone can pick it up, I guess that's my concern as well.
What he has a recording of is 2-step, and that's to build boost on drag cars. It is very, very loud. And maybe 830 wasn't the brightest idea for me to be doing that. And I should mind my P's and Q's a little bit better. And from this moment forward, I will with this building. I don't, like I said, I don't want to piss these guys off. This is what I want. This is what I dream of. So I don't want that.
Okay, that's all I have.
Becky? Are you gonna be running a chassis dyno or an engine dyno in the shop?
That's in the future, preferably
So those are really loud.
really loud. But the
Yeah.
stint of time that it runs is 5 seconds, 6 seconds at most, and then it gets shut off. We pull plugs. We're standing around for about an hour reading data. This is not, I don't do this for fun. I do this because I love doing it and I love making people faster. So
I work at Ballard. I'm between CNS and NVR.
so
So I hear CNS obviously not anymore, but I mean,
Yeah.
NVR, even if they're not as much, but I mean, when NVR would run their dyno.
Yeah.
I could hear it in the building.
Yeah.
So that does have a concern. So again, I love automotive. This being in the right place, I think it's great. I mean, I really like this kind of stuff.
it's close to a lot of other automotive that I go to, I use. So,
The only thing is we do still have a nuisance or,
right,
beyond all of this gets approved, everything else, you tell us you're gonna keep it quiet, everything's gonna be great. But if it's not, we still have ordinances on the book that you're gonna have to follow.
right.
I cannot believe a dyno is going to fall within that. Now, that's gonna fall on whoever's in the town and everything else at the time, but a dyno
I don't
Even
know if
the
it's in
best
the same
dinos are-
ordinance as we are, but there's a dino shop about 600 feet from us, maybe
CNS
1,000.
Motorsports.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct. And they're doing
they're-
dyno pulls every day, all day long, and
Th-
it's
this is-
not, they're not 5-second pulls. It's a 20-second pull, and I'm like, man,
So-
that thing's going for a minute.
So this is gonna be a little cop out there in Lannon.
That's what, that's,
So-
I thought they were somewhere else, yes,
So all those complaints go to a different zip code. But this is ours.
for sure.
So I'm just saying right off the bat, I mean, a lot of people, things can change and people looking at it, but I think you're gonna have a hard time with that meeting with our nuisance ordinance.
Okay.
In my opinion. Keeping your doors closed, trying to be, mindful of your neighbors. I mean, your neighbors care about you, obviously.
Yeah.
If they didn't, trust me, I've been
Like-
up here and people.
Like
come in
Matt said,
just-
he's known me since we used to go to the 4-wheeler track, like. There's no love lost how they feel at all. It's,
It's
I
obvious
don't-
because people who don't care, let me tell you, it's a lot stronger worded.
Yeah.
We've been here for that.
I
So,
was 100% prepared to be denied and have to find somewhere else,
mhm.
but this is my dream, so I'm gonna chase it.
I would say, I mean, just looking at the hours of operation. During the week. I will tell you, most shops are open till 6,
Yeah,
not 8,
correct.
and none of them are open on Sundays.
And that's something we were worried about with the plan of operation, because originally we had it 9 to 9. Because like I
Yeah.
said before, this is also something I do recreationally, so no matter where I go with it, it will always be at my house.
And that's
there
the-
will always be, it will always be, it will
That's-
never be not.
That's where you get gray areas with things, is because if you're in that shop, no
Right.
matter if it's yours or not, does it fall under the plan of operation? If it's personal
And that
or
was
business,
questions
how
we
does
had
that determine?
for this meeting.
I think if it's in the shop, it's subject to the site plan of operation.
So if you are, how you talked about working at 2 AM, you can't.
So then I would have to find another place to run my racing program.
And
I
I
race
raced modifieds for a long time. I mean, I was getting cars ready at 2 AM because you
know.
smashed them the night before. I mean, I
Yep.
get it. Luckily I live next to a quarry, so I'm the least of everybody's worries, but,
That helps.
that's one thing I was gonna talk about, is that the plan of operation, is it just for that building? Is it for a smaller garage ahead of them? I mean, this is the problem with having a residence where your business is how do you separate all that?
I mean,
It's very hard.
It would be for the business.
So it's just the business building, it won't be the residence. So he has a residential, we'll call it a residential garage, that's an accessory building, and then the home. So if he's doing things in his accessory garage that is not the new building, is that considered the business or is that considered the residential aspect?
I would say it's part of the accessory residential.
And would
aspect.
not fall under the same, but if you go into the other business area, you have to follow your plan of operation, which makes this. Thanks, John. Sure. And that's,
What, I'm just saying that, what someone does in their garage, their personal garage, I'm separating that out as different than business operations that take place in the business, the commercial building. So I'm agreeing that anything that takes place in the commercial building would be subject to the plan of operation. Where I would draw the line is that someone can do whatever they want in their garage at whatever hour. They're still subject to that noise ordinance that you referenced,
right.
but the town doesn't, tell someone what they can or can't do. You're not supposed to run a business out of your garage,
Right.
your personal garage.
But now that this has all come to light and everybody's here. Like you can't even be operating anything in the business area if you're not under your plan of operation hours. It's supposed to be vacant. Essentially, I mean, if somebody shows up with something stupid, but,
And that's part of the reason why we put 9 to 9,
right,
so that there wouldn't be question. Like, I'm going to work in this shop. I'm a hard worker. You don't find that many days. You don't find
No.
that these days, kids don't want to work, people don't want to work. I work a lot. Sometimes I work 20 hours a day. it's just, it's my life. It's what I enjoy.
It just comes down to what we're bound by
Right,
all these laws and restrictions.
right. And that's, like I said, why we wanted 9 to 9.
I don't even, I mean, this is such an oddity for myself. I don't even know what to say. Jeff, you got anything to chime in?
No, I, in terms of the hours of operation, I would like to see absolutely no work done on a Sunday and.
I would agree to that.
and
Absolutely.
like maybe, I don't know, 8 AM to 6 PM or something like that.
Major conflicts, obviously.
Yeah.
The other phrase that comes to mind here is quality of life. Your neighbors deserve quality of life issues, which means not metal hitting metal or machinery at 9, 10 o'clock at night. So in terms of the hours of operation, definitely I would say Sunday is out. And with Commissioner Mouche, I would go for 8 to 6 also. I mean, even 6 o'clock. Because the major issue besides zoning, how it's set up, how it's set out, how it fell out between ourselves as a community and the county, that's one thing. The other thing is we can't be there every minute to gauge what's the noise level that's coming from your operation. Do you have any idea what your R value is going to be in your insulation in the building?
To be determined. I have no idea yet.
Yeah, because obviously the higher the
Whatever
R
we
value,
have to make everybody happy at this point.
to try and cut down, at least in colder months, when your doors would be closed,
Yes.
because summer would definitely be an issue. I mean,
I prefer it to have the AC on. I don't like this heat at
Yeah,
all. The
no, I
humidity
understand that.
sucks.
I mean, we've all had, it's so simplistic, but we've all had issues with leaf blowers.
For
I mean,
sure.
you just think about that. And then you, as Commissioner Eberly has mentioned, again, the metallic, the metal is gonna travel. And it's a residential area right next door. You got homes to the west of you and homes across, obviously, the road. So,
I guess my question would be to my neighbors is if they've had troubles over the last 5 years, metal clanging. Cause even if I weren't working there, I would be doing it as a hobby. So has it been a
Up
problem?
here, nope, up
Sorry.
here. This is how we eliminate fights.
Oh, for sure. Well, no fight, just question.
I know, but, this is just the process. We gotta
For
keep
sure.
it up here. So, and it's sometimes with neighbors, especially when they like you, they don't complain about that, but it gets to be the worry of what could be.
That's what I'm
Because one person
seeing.
clanging, then.
I
two,
have
then
not
three.
gotten a single complaint in
Yeah, we
the
see,
entire time I've been doing it.
we see that a lot. I can
Yeah.
show you emails in the last month of people that have all of a sudden just, yeah.
yeah, the complaint process can be fraught with a lot of obviously personal and political implications. So, I'll see what the other commissioners think. But you definitely would you would not have the operation going on Sundays.
I'll
And
find
it would
something
agree
else to
to,
do.
in your plan of operation, the times that we are looking at here. All right,
Hi,
no further
I'm-
comments at this moment.
No more comments?
From Ed. You
Oh,
go
From
ahead.
me, we're just going down the line.
I'm Christine Cole. I'm the property owner. Address N71 West 22339, Good Hope Road. I just have a few things that I can answer. The R factor for the walls is 21. For the roof, it's 49. Also, I want to talk about the installation. When we met with the builder, I told him about his, where he does the fabrication and possibly the dyno. And I said, I hear that there is insulation that will be a sound barrier. He said, yes, there is. That's what is being planned on putting in those two farthest to the south walls around the entire, those two rooms that you saw. Another thing that I'd like to say is right now, the garage that he works out of is closer to their homes. Right now, this building is going to be much farther back on the property, which I think will help eliminate some of those noises. I think that possibly if he does get a dyno, that maybe there could be set hours that could be ran. I also kind of wanted to talk about this 6 o'clock at night cutoff for him working. People work for a living to be able to afford these very expensive cars. And sometimes they don't get off work until 5, 6 o'clock in the evening. So I would like to extend the hours possibly till 8. Not on Sundays. I agree, no work on Sundays. But that would be my recommendation to the board. So I hope I've answered some other questions that you possibly would have. Right behind us is that excavation company. So you were surrounded in, I have huge trucks coming in and out of my property left and right. I don't complain. It's people's living. And my son has a passion. I've never had a passion in my life like this kid has. So that's what I have to add.
Joe? My two concerns are noise and fumes. And I have a problem with people especially in the summertime when the weather is so-called nice, being able to enjoy outside their homes with out on a deck or something like that. And even though my experience has been, you may have neighbors that just love you to death and they do anything in the world for you, but guess what? Tomorrow they sell their house and somebody else moves in, and all of a sudden we've got to deal with all these complaints. And I understand what you're trying to do and how you're trying to do it, but I can't see running this operation 6 days a week till 8 o'clock at night. People want to experience that we have in Wisconsin, and not listen to noise. And the fumes apparently are going to be handled. I assume they're going to be. I understand. I hope correctly that you're going to be operating within this building with the doors closed. That's a big, huge deal, because noise, I can tell you, I have to deal with it all the time. And I can hear something from 400 feet away, and it's a no, I mean, yeah, I make noise in my garage, and I've got a wood shop, and I make noise and that stuff too, and I close the doors when I'm running a plane or something like that, out of respect to my neighbors. But it's amazing how far noise travels, and that's what my concern is. So I do have a concern running the operation past 6 o'clock at night, and I think Sunday is a given. We're not going to be operating this operation on Sundays at all. That's all the concerns I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Brian?
I guess we pretty much covered everything. I don't have anything else to add.
What are your thoughts on the hours?
I would like to see no Sundays, and I'm for until 6. And I guess if you wanted to compromise, I'd stretch that to 7 maybe, but I wouldn't go any further, much past 7, because by the time people get home, they want to grill out whatever they want to do. But I guess I will say one thing. He pretty much gets the point. I think we drove it home. The noise is an issue. And I reiterate what Joe said about, people sell their homes, but in the process of selling their homes, these people aren't going to be there. And they might put up with you while they're living there, and then all of a sudden they feel, I'm not selling my home because of you. And that's where the complaints start, and then they just continue going on from there. So just, I guess, we pretty much drove it home, but just be wary of how the neighbors feel, and I think you will. And Rockwool would be some way to dampen some of the noise. Or I'm sure your architect has plenty of other materials to help out. That's all I have to say.
Hang on.
With my neighbors that I love also, I have said if it's too noisy, all you have to do is pick up the phone and call. Simple.
Becky?
Yeah, I agree with everyone else on the noise. I agree with no Sundays. I could push it till 7 o'clock. I don't think that's too bad. But even when you are working on your own personal vehicle, you need to show consideration for your neighbors. You can't be out there at 2 o'clock in the morning doing stuff. That's all I have to say.
Usually what I'm working on is like, you know, a wrench, ratchet, bolting stuff together at that late at night. I'm not fabricating, I'm not doing that kind of
Okay.
thing. So it's not personal stuff that's normally pretty quiet. Man, I walked up here to say something other than that. Starting earlier, would we be able to start earlier, 7 o'clock? Is that something that would be a problem? Versus having that hour at the end? Because I don't mind getting up early and starting.
I will say the majority of the shops in the area, all services, the Sussex Autos and such, their plan of operation for their business hours is 7 to 6, I believe.
Would that be a fair compromise?
I don't have any problem with that. I
Yeah,
get
I
up
don't
at 5
either.
in the morning, so it doesn't make a difference to me.
Jeff,
That's fine.
Ed?
Agreed.
I mean,
good, Brian.
and for the noise, would a retaining wall
Hang on,
also help?
let me just finish this one first, Brian.
I'm good with that.
Becky,
I'm good with 7.
I am also good with 7 to 6. So I think anything you can do to, I don't know about a retaining wall because you don't have enough room, but
Or a, I don't know, a wall behind or on
Trees.
the other side of the
trees,
tree?
yeah.
Trees
Trees
are-
are.
No,
Trees are
It
great.
doesn't work. A berm would be
What?
the only, a wall would just, no.
Man, you should have, they used to have trees all in their yard and holy cow, they took them down.
The
and
trees
it's-
make a big
It makes
difference.
a huge
Yes, it
difference.
does.
The quarries removed the trees by my house and I hear things now I never heard before
Yeah,
and a lot of it.
Yeah.
I can't believe you're ever gonna get approved for a dyno there. I'm just gonna be honest with you. Dynos, you can put all this insulation you want by the car, the exhaust is what makes the noise. And I don't know if they've got, I mean, I know.
you're meaning
NVRs
the
and
exhaust,
CNSs
the
are-
exhaust fan.
In the exhaust, from the dynos.
So I know
the
at
exhaust from the engine.
CNS, they had to, being in Butler, they had to build a baffle box.
Mhm.
So the exhaust goes into a box that has baffles in it and it kills a lot of the noise through that. So we could do something
You'd
like
have to
that
see what
as
the
well.
technology is at the time, I guess.
Yeah,
I mean, I know NVRs is old.
yeah. Oh, and
I mean,
NVR
theirs
hasn't
isn't-
upgraded their
theirs is
system
insane.
in 10
mean,
years,
Yeah,
15
theirs
years.
is, I can hear that in my building there.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure his go engine straight out the wall.
Yeah, that one's
And
crazy.
that's it.
So unless there's some
So-
kind of, if the technology brings it down to a normal decibel level, that's one thing, but
What decibels would be?
I don't even know what that's gonna.
Okay.
You know, here's the thing with decibels, and we've talked about this many times. Tonal noise can be very low decibel, but it's tonal, so it's annoying. Then you can have high, different pitches do different things.
Yeah,
So to say, say 75 is fine, that's real low, obviously, but
Yeah.
it might be on one thing, but not on the other, so,
that's all I have.
all right. Orange, you have anything else on this one?
No, I would just add that with other past projects, we've had different hours. There can be different hours for different days of the week. There could be different hours for different uses on the site. That's not out of the realm of what this body has approved in the past for different uses. So just Plan Commission should keep that in mind.
For me, I guess I'm gonna stick with the same. I get it, because you're talking about customer cars being picked up, but stuff like that,
Correct.
right?
Or you could have different, hours approved for certain days of the week and different hours approved for different days of the week.
I just want to go on the record that I think there are a lot of issues here that need to be researched. And I don't believe that he has the right under the Waukesha County zoning code to work 24 hours a day in that garage like you're allowing him to do. I think that needs to be researched. The other thing that needs to be researched, and keep in mind, I'm the one you're going to call to say, can we prosecute him for violation? So you have to be very clear what you're approving tonight. Okay, and I don't know if you're prepared to do that. If these cars are owned in a corporate structure, they're not personal cars. If he has a company that runs this, it no longer is his personal cars necessarily. Has anybody researched that?
So that's what we're here to, that's,
I don't know that that answer's been, but I wanted to make sure you're all agreeing that 24 hours a day and the only restriction is the public nuisance ordinance.
Oh.
And that's fine if that's your decision.
we're not
In the
agreeing
garage.
in their personal
In the
garage. Steve,
personal
we don't,
garage.
this, the thing is, we don't know. I don't think anybody here knows what. like you
Mr.
said.
Chairman, he kind of took the wind out of my sails. I was gonna ask if it would be okay to table this till the next meeting and try to get some of those questions answered. I still think the interpretation that our planner has may be incorrect with respect vis-a-vis the zoning. I understand what it says, and I think it does say boundary, I mean, abutting, but I would argue that it is abutting a property that has residential zoning. It may not be right there on that border, but it's still abutting that property. So I mean, that's open to interpretation, I believe, and argument. So I'd like to see that addressed also.
Commissioner, would you agree that that's really a Waukesha County decision and we should just get into writing from them? Their code.
That's true.
Yeah, and I have no problem with that. I don't know that, Orin, and I need to research it. We just need the county to give us in writing
I have no problem
how
with
they
that.
interpret it
Mm.
and how they interpret the comment that I think the administrator made about it's residential and manufacturing. What can you really do in that garage under accessory uses?
Right.
My concern is the county may have the final say in this, but who's gonna get the complaints and who's gonna have to deal with the complaints? The county isn't gonna send somebody out there. The town/village is gonna have to deal with this, and that's what my concerns are. The citizens of the town of Lisbon are gonna be calling town hall, raising concern, say the least, and then the town's gonna have to deal with it. The county's not gonna have to deal with it.
Well, I will defer to the administrator. If it's a shoreline
So-
zoning violation, it goes to the county. And
So,
whether they do anything, not Commissioner,
Yeah, I
I don't
know.
disagree.
I
We'll
know.
get the calls
Yeah.
and we'll tell them they have to contact the county or we have to refer to the county. But under county shoreline, we don't enforce the zoning code,
Okay.
correct?
correct. So I just have one thing. Orin, do we know when this is set for the county? For their action? Because I know the county, if they don't get a recommendation, they just will move forward with or without. I've been at other municipalities where we recommended approval, they denied. We recommended denial, they approved. They just are asking for our input. So I
Well,
don't want
Kathy,
us
I
to
don't
take
mean to
the
interrupt,
chance.
but I have to.
Go ahead.
There's been changes in the shoreline zoning code over the last number of years. Some of you may be familiar with. There was a period of time where we were recommending body. And then Genesee demanded and we pushed through an amendment that said they had to comply with all of our conditions. Now, there may have been amendments since then that were no longer merely a recommending body. But I know Genesee in particular in town of Oconomowoc, those who were under county zoning said this is poppycock, that you're approving things that we would never allow in our municipality.
Mhm.
And you're not listening to us. So I don't know, Orin, whether you looked at that. I'm not trying to put anybody in the spot.
Right.
But I know there was a period of time they had to comply with it. Now, that might be that we recommend approval and they just deny it. They may say that, that's being in compliance, but they don't have to approve it. I just think there's 3 or 4 issues that we should sit down with the county. And this gives him an opportunity, the petitioner, to sit down with neighbors and see if they can reach some kind of resolution on, some conditions that they can live with. That's not necessarily bad. I know other people may move in. I know all of that, but how many times have we recommended sit down with your neighbors and see if you can, talk about this? Correct? I mean.
Right.
I was just concerned about timing for the county.
But
so I
that's
don't know
my,
what they're
I was
doing.
gonna ask that question. When is the county reviewing it?
And I don't know, and to John's question, I did not look specifically at that particular angle. Does the applicant know? Have you been in communication with the county?
When we talked to Jake last, it was basically, once it was approved by the town, it was pretty much a rubber stamp for them.
A meeting that you would go
No, there
before
was
for them,
no-
or they are issuing a zoning permit or something administrative?
It sounds that way.
So to, along with Jeff's comment, which I think it's a great comment because I was gonna make the same comment. Is there any downside to the applicant or to the town to table this till next month so we can get some of these answers? So we know what we're doing. It's to protect the applicant is in my perception, protect the applicant as much as protect the neighbors and rest of the residents of the town. I just want to get this done right and not have a continuing problem because you're gonna be making a heck of an investment here. I want to make sure everybody's on the same page. And I'm sure that's what Jeff was alluding to before.
So that's,
Well, it sounds like it's gonna be done administratively over there, so they're gonna wait for us no matter what, so a
Okay.
table would be in,
You want to make the
would be
motion?
possible.
oh, is there any other questions before we would proceed that way? Anything from the board? Because we're gonna,
So how does that process play out then? So what items are we talking about that are still hanging out there?
The
And
plan
then,
of
and then
operation.
how are those communicated to us before the next meeting?
so that's gonna have to be between staff and you.
Okay.
We've,
Before we leave, can we have an actual list of items then that we're gonna be reviewing?
so what we've talked about so far is we need to find out, as far as the accessory structures, what's allowed and what's not allowed. For us, it was the hours, but I mean, that's pretty much set. What else was there, John? There was
Interpretation of
The side yard.
the side yard, yeah.
Brought up
Offset.
The side yard, but whether it's part of interpreting it properly, we said, well, that's the county point line, what the setback has to be.
Mhm.
Use of the accessory building on a residential property is the manufacturing. And whether our recommendation is a recommendation or is binding, those are three that I know of. Or another for you, if you pick up anything else. No, I think those are three main.
I think those were the three main points. that we
Would the
discussed.
operation in his existing garage play into this? I just want to make sure that there's a clear understanding of what they can and cannot do in their existing, I guess, call it the accessory building to the residential structure, to make sure I want to make sure this thing is black and white to protect you and everybody else.
So we've got that down as accessory, what is
Okay.
allowed
that's
in
fine.
the accessory.
That's the only other thing I have.
So then, as far as communication goes between today and the next meeting, how is this worked through staff? And then what is the timing of that and how are we delivered that communication in a timely manner? So the next meeting we're prepared.
So Orin will reach out to the planner will reach out to the county, get the answers that we're looking for, and he will respond to you before the
In like a
next
week,
meeting,
would a week be fair?
So we don't have the ability to tell the county what to do.
right?
Sure.
I can tell you that I will email them tomorrow.
Thank you.
And
Just
Orin,
be
if
aware.
you can email and then maybe CC the petitioner, so then she
I've
knows when
got
it's
your
gone
contact
out, when it
information.
comes back.
I can copy you.
Just be aware, I don't know if you've dealt with the county before.
I have.
They do things on their speed.
No, I get it. I get it.
Even when we want things done, it's their speed.
So we get our packet out the week before, the Thursday, Friday before. So we have to have something in the packet before we put you on the next agenda.
And then what I would anticipate is hopefully we get a response within a timely fashion for our own internal schedule for
Right,
the way
that's
packets work so that I can update the staff report that I prepared for this evening's meeting with this additional information, trying to provide some feedback addressing those 3 points that we discussed.
Right, I guess what we're trying to do is just to make sure that a month from now, when we come in here, we're not just getting hand grenades thrown at us without any,
Sure.
you know.
And we don't get, until they get the reports done, we don't get our information for us to be ready to
Right.
prepare to you. We don't want to waste your time or staff's time or, because it costs you all money and everything else.
Right.
We work for free.
Thank you.
Okay, we have to pay to work here, so.
$25 each per meeting.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
And sometimes they run till midnight, so it's really, and we get tips too.
You get a good bargain. All right, go ahead, Jeff.
I make a motion to table this until the next plan commission meeting.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, no discussion on a table.
Second.
Joe.
Joe. All in favor, say aye.
Hi.
Opposed? Yes, passes unanimous. All right, item C, discussion necessary action request by Matthew and Mary Jo Lurch for conceptual review of proposed combination / redivision of properties located at North 88, West 23310 North Lisbon Road, LSBT 0152.996.004, and North 88 West 23462 North Lisbon Road, LSBT 0152.996.002 in the A10 zoning district. Orin.
Okay, 1 second to just update my map here. Okay, you have before you a request for conceptual plan review from the Lurch family who are here this evening for a proposed minor land division. Actually, it would be 5 lots that they're looking for. And part of the concept would be to achieve that, to rezone the property to A3 agricultural residential estate to allow a smaller lot size. The property is currently A10, allowing a 10-acre lot. A3 allows minimum 3-acre lots. I'll bring up next the proposed layout. So there are 2 existing single-family properties, and what's being proposed, those homes would remain and each be on their own separate lot. But then in addition, so the existing homes would be lot 1 as shown on the concept plan, and lot 4. What was being proposed to be added would be a new lot 2, 3, and 5. And as you can see from the proposed plan, lots 2 and 3 would have access via Preserve Place to the north and would share a access from that road stub, essentially. The applicant is not proposing to do any type of road improvement as part of this plan. Their request is to be able to have a shared driveway at that point. From our initial planner appointment, lot 5 was tweaked a little bit to meet the 3-acre minimum requirement, which it now does. And so they're looking for feedback and the opinion of the commission. Is the commission amenable to the layout, to the proposed zoning, to the access for lots 2 and 3? And then I would just point out that the proposed density is 5.58 acres per lot, essentially. And the This is a rural residential, rural density and other agricultural land as far as the future land use, which allows 5 to 34 acres per dwelling unit. So as proposed, it would be consistent with that.
Questions from the board?
Go ahead, Jeff.
Okay, in looking at this, I think it's kind of a difficult piece because there's you have the issue of the existing homes that you gotta make way for. You have topography issues and some access issues. I would think that it makes more sense to put a bulb at the end of that, what is it called, preserved place, a cul-de-sac bulb there. Otherwise, the access up to those properties, I think, can be improved. Right now, they basically don't have, if that's the ingress egress point, they really don't have any kind of frontage on that at all. I think that would be an improvement. I don't like the way the things look. I don't know if the width to depth ratios are being violated with any of these lots. And I don't like things like with a curved line on. I don't know how that could be squared off if it could be. I noticed that that long driveway kind of follows a ridge the way it looks up to the house. Perhaps that could be moved and that lot 5 could be squared off a little bit. I don't know if that's doable or not. But I think it needs a little more work. I'd like to see this thing reworked a little bit and brought back. The perpendicular line that separates lots 2 and 3. I'd like to see that squared off a little bit if possible. And if you put a bulb in there, you might be able to do that for a cul-de-sac. Those are my comments, just reviewing this.
Ed?
I don't have a problem with 4 or 5. I mean, obviously with lot 4, the driveway, if it's going to be, we were going to change the lot line, then the driveway for that existing property owner would have to be changed. So 5 would obviously have access off of North Lisbon Road. So I would leave 4 and 5 alone. Jeff, in talking about a bulb, because obviously we're access to 2 and 3 would come off of Preserve Place, and then they would have a shared driveway. Shared driveways always scare me, but that's just my personal feeling. Wait and see. Again, so I'm okay with proposal for the way 4 and 5 are currently suggested. See if any other commissioners have any concerns with the access, because obviously if you don't access off of Preserve Place, you're not getting to the properties, they'd be landlocked. Or you'd have to have a heck of a long driveway. That would work. So would not work. So anyway, those are my comments at this time.
Go.
Assuming there's gonna be no public streets on any of this, which is main to me, it's all gonna be private driveways and that. So that we don't have to plow any more cul-de-sacs. I would say the biggest concern I have is to utilize Preserve Place to the extent that you can, because it's already there and then it goes up to the property line to get those lots out of there. That lots 4 and 5 have a shared driveway, so there are no more driveways onto North Lisbon Road. We don't need another culvert to maintain. And I mean, this is not easy to carve this thing up. I appreciate what you're up against, but those are the 2 main things I have.
no public streets, 4 and 5 share an existing, share a driveway. And so we don't have any more entrances on there. It's the only concerns I have. Mr. Chairman, Brian?
I agree with Ed, or Joe, excuse me, about the having the shared driveway on 4 and 5. And 4 and 5, pretty much I echo what Joe has said.
Becky?
I wonder if Preserve Place comes all the way up. Does it come all the way up to the property
Yes.
line?
Yes, it does.
Okay, and then I can see you utilizing that. I personally don't like shared driveways, but I don't know how else you would access lot 5, but otherwise I think it's a good start.
I am using Preserve Place, not an issue. I think that's great, actually. It's a good way to do it up there. I don't like curved lot lines. I think that leaves problems in the future between 4 and 5 there. It just seems like a headache in the making, but I don't know what else, I don't know what else to do with it there, I guess. I guess the width to length ratio, does it need it? Between, on 5 there, that's a long lot and it gets pretty narrow at the back end. I mean, you count the front, you count the back. I guess that would be a question I would have there. And you brought it up to 3, it was brought up to 3 acres. Which part of our code is on that? Because I know if you have a lot in front and a lot in back, the lot in front has to be at least 3 acres. Is that what it is? Why would this have to be 3? Yeah. Oh, that's for that zoning. Okay. It wasn't our, okay. So I guess length to width would be my question there. How was it determined on that? Other than that, is this division for sale or is this family moving in?
Right now, it's not. I'm sorry.
Mary Jo Lurch, North 88, West 23462, North Lisbon Road.
Oops, sorry. Matthew Lurch. Matthew Lurch.
Okay. This is probably, it's for a future sale.
Yes.
Yeah. Of course.
But lots 2 and 3 would be way in the future. The current sales we're looking for is for 4 and 5.
It just kind of, if there's a, for timing on it, that's what I'm.
Right, yes, we're looking really good for 4 and 5.
Okay. I don't know.
I just have one more thing.
Sure.
I believe we can do this, but right now I can't tell from the aerial photo if that Preserve Place, is there a T turnaround there for plows?
You know,
How do they turn
There's-
plows around?
we have,
I can tell you why that's there.
Okay,
It is right.
The town did those. So if one of those was there, it was envisioned that at some point it was
it
gonna
would be
continue.
extended. I don't know.
And it was supposed to be a cul-de-sac was put in at that point.
Right. All I'm saying is we want to have a discussion with you and whatever about how we're going to deal with that in the future because to turn a plow around there. T turnarounds are terrible because they're a pain in the butt for you and really what it ends up doing is it plows the snow right into you can't get through that thing. So we would have, I would think we'd want to have a discussion with you about what we're going to do with that.
It was always envisioned that at some point there would either be continued or it'd be a cul-de-sac.
Yeah, it'd be a cul-de-sac or it'd be extended into a subdivision. We need to deal with that so we don't create a problem for the future landowners and for the town's DPW.
right,
Because we don't want to have a T turnaround there. They're absolutely terrible.
yeah,
Is it possible that the town would put the cul-de-sac encompass that T there and put the cul-de-sac then?
I don't know.
We don't
who
pay
owns
for the
that
first
property.
cul-de-sac.
Okay,
Yeah,
I
we
just thought maybe they could utilize the T turnaround and just make it a cul-de-sac.
unless you know who, if we have enough right away there, Mitch. We need to do something there.
No, but I would like to say that, this is a similar situation as the Getch, property. And what we basically did at that point in time is, Joe DiStefano came out there and directed the property owner on where he would like to see that driveway entrance be located, knowing that he could, push his snow to the other side of that area. So there would have to be some communication there with
Right.
DPW.
I just want to make sure,
Because we have to be able to,
Correct.
right,
those were put in so that the fire trucks can pull in, they pull in, they back up, and they go. It's just a Y turn essentially.
I just want to put it on the list so we don't forget about it, if we don't
Sure.
get blown up tonight or something like that, but it's to your benefit and the future property owner's benefit and the town's operations. We don't want to plow your driveway shut. We gotta be able to get a fire truck in there, as Mitch said, and we gotta be able to get a snowplow turned
There's
around.
actually, if you look at the row of trees behind that.
Right off Preserve Place.
Yeah, I mean, my father personally made that wide for that, I'm assuming for this occasion.
Yeah. So we just want to make sure that we have a discussion about that.
I am not a fan of shared driveways at all. And if you put a cul-de-sac in there, then 3 and 2 could feasibly, possibly have their own private driveways.
Okay.
And if, not to disagree with my fellow commissioner, a lot smarter than me. There's an existing property owner for lot 4, correct?
For, well,
There's a home back in there.
there's a home that,
Yeah, there's a.
but
And they have a private driveway that goes off the Lisbon Road.
correct.
Okay, would they want to suddenly go from their own private driveway to a shared driveway?
No,
I didn't think so.
No.
So, I would, even though we try to keep the number of, in terms of egress on our roads to a minimum, I could see a driveway coming onto North Lisbon and not sharing that driveway in lot 4.
Okay.
that's,
I wouldn't want to, as a homeowner, I would not want to be in that situation.
that's what we assumed would be, there would be a driveway towards the west side of that lot line to go into that property.
Well, that's my feelings on, this proposal. So 4 and 5 are first, and 2 and 3 would be in the future, as you are saying.
Right. Yeah, we don't plan on building anything right now.
Yeah,
Or sell it, yeah.
okay.
But why would that?
Joe,
I don't have any.
Brian,
No, I'm good.
Becky?
No.
Anything else?
Did
to
say
add?
something I didn't hear.
Any other questions for us?
I do, there was, comment about the size of the lots and the zoning would there be a different zoning that we could utilize to possibly make lot 5, we were hoping to make that smaller so it wouldn't have that shape. Is there any other way we could do that? I don't know if it would be zoning or how we could be creative and make that a nicer shape.
I would just add that if the zoning were to be something proposed that allowed a smaller lot size, it might not then be consistent with the density for the rural density that exists.
Okay.
And as comparison, the property to the east that has the subdivision has a different density in the land use.
Yeah, that's just a
more, that's more intense.
You know,
So I have that open. I'll bring that up.
Okay, I just thought there might be an easier solution. Okay. Lisa, is our engineer on Zoom by any chance?
Check flow.
That's me.
Yeah, I wish he would be here to address that. He, you know, we didn't know about this meeting till yesterday, so he was not able to attend. And we were kind of deferring back. There's a property on North Lisbon Road just to the south that has, just a blacktop road that goes in. That's, we're kind of using that for an example. On North Lisbon Road, just south of us. Shoot, where are they there? Right here. It's right, this, isn't that it?
Yeah,
Oh, or this strand.
would be this one, right?
No, it's this one. It's this
Okay.
one. It's this one. It's,
Right behind the town hall.
well, no, it's the lot 5. It's to the east and south of lot 5 there. So that property has a big, just a straight drive with multiple homes off of it.
Yeah.
It's, you know,
Yeah, you can.
is
yeah,
that
you can
just a
see-
private road? Because I don't know that, I don't think the plows go down there. Yeah, you right where you
So-
have your cursor.
So this road right here.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so there's probably some things that were allowed a long time ago that aren't anymore.
Okay, cause
Like, we
it's
don't-
not
we
that
don't-
old, yeah. It's
Yeah,
not-
we don't allow, that one isn't that old.
No. I
'Cause we
mean,
don't allow more than 2 homes on a shared driveway anymore.
I think there's
well, there's 1,
4,
2,
huh?
3, yeah, maybe 4, yeah.
Okay, so.
Okay.
I mean, there's a number of different ways you can carve this up, it's just like carving cheese.
Right.
I mean, you could come off of, where is this, reserve place, put a cul-de-sac there and take everything to the north. And then this lot on the south goes to North Lisbon Road, and you don't have the shared driveway.
Yeah, can't they
And
just
you
do R1?
Put in a cul-de-sac,
Lot 5?
it doesn't have to be the town standards. you just gotta
Take
go-
a couple out of it.
And for the same amount of money, it's screwing around with this, you end up with the same thing. Or you don't end up with these weird shapes.
So
Yeah.
explain that again, the,
You can have it.
Oh.
Free.
It's got the suburban too.
You can. I mean, it's not here, that's all. So you can hear this speak from here, this speak from here, this goes south, you know, the girls. This would be down to here. You know, it's saying on the lot. You just fill the lots and then you do it.
and then this.
3 to 4.9.
Yeah, to this cul-de-sac. This comes this way, this comes this way, this goes south. I mean,
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's just an idea, but I mean, there's one, there's an infinite number of ways of carving that, but then you don't end up with these weird shapes.
Okay.
And I think they're more saleable, that's just my.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
No problem.
Thank you, Bill.
Approval of other authority.
Anything else?
No.
I have a quick question. And that was a good suggestion. You said your father planted the trees. I'm just curious.
Yes.
I'm sorry, because I'm surprised I harbor. I see a crop circle on lot 1. What is that?
The rock pile.
It's white pine.
Beautiful white pine forest.
And the
But
deer.
you did
and
it
the
in a
turkey.
complete circle.
I
Oh,
planted those.
You did.
We
You
planted
did.
those. That's ours.
Okay. You guys, I was wondering if town of Lisbon had a Stonehenge or something.
Yeah. Well, here I am.
Okay, thank
All
you.
right.
No
Okay.
further comment.
Oh, I do have my agenda here. All right, so there's no action really needed on this one tonight. Okay. Item D, then discussion necessary action regarding proposed amendments to the Lisbon zoning code in particular, but not limited to section 2, parent B definitions related to minor grading permits. So.
So we're back to this discussion about kind of why we looked at this in the first place was that the plan commission felt that we were getting some projects that maybe didn't have to be, coming before them. If possible, could that be handled another way? And what we found in looking at the zoning ordinance aspect of this requirement is that within the land disturbing activities portion of the zoning code, there's a lot of scenarios where something could possibly be required to get a conditional use outside of just the limits that this amendment would impact. And so, the current code being 6,000 square feet or 60 cubic yards. There's also a scenario where if somebody's doing a berm of a certain size, that requires conditional use approval. There are scenarios where if you're doing a certain activity within a shoreland area, that could require conditional use approval. So sorting through all of that would be a significant task, probably more than what we wanted to get into with what the intent was for this. And so what we came to as a easier fix was that by changing the definition of the minor grading permit, we are just moving the threshold. And obviously at our last meeting, there was a discussion about going beyond what's currently being proposed, which is the 10,000 square feet and 100 cubic yards to possibly even more than that. And what we found at the staff level was that whatever happens with this zoning code amendment, there would be follow-up necessary to amend the certain sections of the building code to match so that there's consistency throughout, the municipal ordinances, not just the zoning ordinance. So you heard from the town engineer that a lot of the projects that did come before this body were pretty large disturbances that, this threshold would not have impacted. There probably will be a project that it does impact. We just don't know when that will come across, the desk to our attention. Yeah, so I don't believe it would be a fruitless exercise to move the needle in what we got general consensus at the last meeting would probably be in the right direction to allowing greater disturbances to be reviewed by the engineer under a minor grading permit as opposed to having them go through the CUP process. But we also acknowledged, and there seemed to be some general consensus at the last meeting, that this was a Band-Aid and that we'll get a kick at a larger, more comprehensive amendment should the incorporation efforts be successful and there be a more comprehensive look at the zoning ordinance. So when? Yeah. Like that confidence.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to abandon this effort for the time being and move on when we've got the bigger pie to cut. We can take care of just put this on the list with the other. God only knows how many more we've got to clean up when we get to that point. It's a long motion. I know.
But
We table this
It
till
makes sense.
infinity. I mean, we tried and the truth showed us that this is a futile exercise.
I agree. I think we need to
We got bigger fish.
this is all gonna need to be attacked when it gets,
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Anybody have an issue with that? But
No.
technically, we just have we have to vote this down or just no action.
No action.
All right. Item 5, planner report.
Nothing of substance to report. this
That is the right answer, sir.
So moved,
Veteran maneuver. Item 6, adjournment.
so moved.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We're out at 8:36.